Well, we are joined now by Wardah Khalid. She is a U.S. Middle East foreign policy analyst and a regular here at CCTV. Great to see you.
Nice to see you too.
So tell us, what's really behind these protests? What's driving this?
Well, this protest is a march for return. It was supposed to be a 6-week peaceful sit-in driven by Gazans and Palestinians who are trying to return to what they consider their original home. And so it fell on Lands Day, which is the first day in 1976 was a protest of Israeli confiscation of Palestinian lands. And so this year they decided to do a march where there were 30,000 Palestinians who came to the Gaza-Israeli border. And so now there were a lot of tensions that happened, as you saw with the videos and everything, where protesters were attacked by Israeli forces, resulting in the death of 15 Gazans and over 1,000 injuries.
Well, the Israeli army is saying this is really about, organizing terrorism activity.
I think terrorism is a very easy default for people to go into. We see it around the world where people will claim that terrorism is behind certain causes. But the fact that there were so many Palestinians involved here and that were injured, that were not part of any terrorist activity, they were speaking for the right to return. They were protesting unlivable conditions in Gaza. The UN says by 2020, Gaza will be unlivable. 90% of the water there is undrinkable. There's been a decades-long blockade there, and Gazans aren't allowed to leave or enter the country or enter the part of the country. And so it's been a lot of tension boiling up, and until those issues are resolved long-term, we're going to continue to see unrest.
So Hamas official Ghazi Hamad said the march had sent a message to the world that Palestinians would not accept an American peace plan. Is this really America instilling its values?
I think people are a little concerned about America's values or America's involvement or investment in the peace process. President Donald Trump first instigated that by wanting to move the U.S. embassy from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv, which further escalated tensions. They're actually planning to move that starting on May 15th, which is the anniversary of the Nakba, which is when 800,000 Palestinians were forced to leave their homes. It's also the day that Israel celebrates as their Independence Day. And incidentally, this march that happened now was supposed to reach a peak on that day, so it's further escalating tensions as well as the U.S. pulling out funding from UNRWA. UNRWA is a UN agency that provides humanitarian assistance to Palestinians all over the territories. So it looks like, for all intents and purposes, that the U.S. is not an honest peace broker right now, or it's not honestly invested in furthering a peace process. And so people are looking to other folks in the international community to step up. We actually saw yesterday at the UN, China and Russia were calling for further promotion of diplomatic amelioration of diplomatic tension so that the peace process can continue.
So what's going to happen? Because now we have Hamas leader Mahmoud Zahar saying it's only a matter of logic that the Palestinians will respond. It's just sort of a tit for tat here. Who started it? Who's going to finish it?
Right. I think what's important to remember here is that without a long-term peace solution, these kinds of tensions are going to continue. So Hamas, of course, doesn't speak for every single Palestinian there. They're the ones that are in control of Gaza, and so right now people are listening to them in the international community. But that doesn't mean Palestinians themselves are calling for violence or tensions or tit for tat. Many of them just want to live regular, everyday lives, have access to water, have access to electricity, have proper sewage systems. I actually went to Gaza a few years ago and was able to see the deterioration there. Many of the homes after the 2014 Gaza war were not repaired, and so people are living in makeshift shelters, and it's just an unlivable condition for them. So that is what was really driving people. They're not looking to escalate tensions. They really just want to return to their homes and return to a normal way of life.
Well, Wardah, what's next then? I mean, what's going to happen? How do we make peace during this transition?
I think we're going to have to watch and see how the Palestinians do respond, as you mentioned. Some have called to, continue the march, while others are saying that, we're afraid of tensions escalating further. Israel actually has issued a warning that if Gazans do return to the border, that there will be, further violence or there will be further clashes. And so we're just going to have to see and rely and hope the international community steps up, that the UN Security Council actually gets it together and is able to facilitate some sort of peace process in the region so that we can put an end to this conflict once and for all.
So you think it'll be even worse when the U.S. moves the embassy?
Absolutely. I don't think that it's going to help the peace process any when the U.S. moves it. Now, granted, it does take a long time to move the embassy. It'll take years, and it could culminate in the actual next administration. But the symbolicness of it is actually also problematic. So if that does happen on May 15th or whenever the administration decides, then we might have, additional tensions, and so we'll look out for that as well.
All righty. Well, Wardah Khalid, thank you so much. Always great to be with you.
Thank you for having me.